So let's go through the biological poverty trap. I should say that it's one of the most ancient idea in economics, very old idea. It dates from the, at least from the 1950s. And this is an old idea exactly in this form of the biology. So the idea is that the first few calories that you get to consume are used by your body just to survive. So they don't make you strong. And then when you start eating enough to survive, the next calories start giving you strength. So that's when you can start working out or you can walk. So someone who is very poor, like Paxolin, may not have enough to eat to be very productive. But if he could eat more, then he would become productive. So at the heart of this is this idea of what they call a capacity curve. And a capacity curve has something like this shape. It relates how much effort you can exercise to how much income you have. And of course, how much income you have is supposed to be related to how much you consume. So what is the assumption that is underlying the fact that I have put income here on the x-axis? Yeah?
The more money you have, the more you eat.
Right. The more money you have, the more you eat. So for example, the simplest case would be all you have, you eat. Of course, we know that it's not true because you also need to take care of your basic needs. You need to clothe yourself. You need to pay your children's school fee. Maybe you need something for your housing. So maybe you will only consume a part of your income, but maybe some fraction of what you have, you're going to eat. So that creates a relationship between the income you have today and how much you get to eat, right? So instead of income here, we could have calories consumed. And one first big question that we'll have to answer next time is, how steep is this relationship between how much income people have and how much they are eating, right? But here we are assuming that there is some relationship and it's presumably steep enough. So whenever you have income, you start eating. And so and what we have here on the left is on the x-axis is the work capacity. So how many bushels of wheat are you able to harvest, or something like that? How many trenches can you dig? So the work capacity, you think of it as physical output, but of course there could be a relationship between this physical output and your income tomorrow, because, for example, you could be paid by the piece. So if you're paid by the piece, however many bushel of wheat you harvest, you get that much income. That creates the work capacity and your income tomorrow are related one for one, right? So here we have income today, work capacity, and instead we could have income today and income tomorrow. Okay? Now, why is this shape the way it is? What does the shape represent? Exactly. So the left part is the first part where you are just getting enough to survive. So you are just eating enough to survive. So the first few calories are good because they keep you alive, so you can actually move about. But after that, it just keeps you at this kind of low level, right? And then you start having maybe 1,200, 1,500 calories, and then suddenly it's the good breakfast you're eating before going out for your run. It shoots up, and then why does it flatten out again? Right, after a while it satisfies and levels out, and if we had continued the curve, what would happen? You really go down, you think of Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving slump, actually probably gets a big down going line. So that creates this kind of funny shape between your income today and your work capacity, and therefore between your income today and your income tomorrow. Or it could be, within a week or something like that, right? Which seems to have a reasonable biological sense. Now, what happened when the price of food went up? What does it do to the work capacity? So what happens when the price of food goes up is that for each effort that in terms of bushel of wheat, that's the same thing. But in terms of actual income that the bushel of wheat transform into how much income, that creates a jump down, because now to go from income to work capacity, to create from income today to calorie, that's more expensive. So the curve shifts down because for every dollar that you spend, or rupiah that you spend on food, that's fewer calories, and therefore that shifts down whatever you are able to achieve in terms of capacity, right? So if we have it in the form of income to work capacity, the prices of food going up, makes the curve going down. Here we are, if we're thinking of Paxoline, we are thinking about physical strength. But if we're thinking about Paxoline's children, for example, it could well be their capacity to focus in class. And that could easily have the same shape. In fact, there are other things that competes also for calories for children, for example, whether or not they have intestinal worms. And the intestinal worms sort of also shift your work capacity, your attention capacity down because they are eating your food. Therefore, that tends to make the kids anemic and less likely to be listening. That's exactly right. And alternatively, what happens when the wages go down? That's another thing we can look at. What happens to the work capacity? Not to the work capacity, but if we put income on the y-axis now, income tomorrow on the y-axis, and the wages go down, it again will do the same thing, because now the same work capacity will translate into less income. So what was happening in Indonesia in 2008 is, on the one hand, food prices were going up. On the other hand, farmers were stressed out because the input prices were going up. So at the same time, they wanted to reduce the wages when the prices were increased. And both of these phenomena create this southwest shift in the capacity curve. Yeah.
Why did the farmers just increase the prices they sold the crops at?
That's an excellent question. So why didn't the farmer just increase the prices? The thing is that with the agricultural cycle, you produce, and then so you put your fertilizer in the ground, and you put your crop in the ground, and then you wait around, and the crop comes, and you try to sell it. And you're exactly right that the fact that the input prices have gone up while the demand in principle would not have gone up would have meant that the food prices the food prices sold by the farmer would probably go up. But what happened is that they weren't very sure whether or not the food prices were going to go up by the time they sold their food in proportion to the input prices. So the situation that prevailed in 2008 is a lot of volatility, which is not, the prices were high, but they were also increasing. And that was true for the input prices, and that was true for the output prices. And when you were talking to the farmers, everybody felt that they were holding the short end of the sticks. The farmers were saying, well, yes, the food prices will increase, but we don't know whether it will increase enough to cover our input prices. Moreover, the farmers found it difficult to get loans, for example. So even if they know that the prices are going to go up for their input in the future, in the meantime, they still had to buy the fertilizer. So they sort of had to cut costs now. So this is a little bit what was happening, is the mismatch between the fact you have to pay for the fertilizer today and you're going to realize the output in the future. So that creates this uncertainty, plus the fact that you need to finance it one way or the other. Which is why at that time, there was this kind of two things going on, which were both going on against the poor guy. So this is what we have with the capacity curve.